This would definitely be easier with two people. Let me see what I can get done. Oh yeah, awesome. Well, I may have already looked at this trans, but Kuda just gave it a good look over, didn't you? Hey, I'm talking to you. She doesn't care. Anyway, well, you saw last time I dropped the pan, looked at the fluid, and talked with some people, and we gave it the seal of approval that it's going to be okay. So what I'm going to do in this video is we're going to put a shift kit in it. We're going to put a Jake's Performance Transmission 4L80E recalibration kit in it, which is going to help crisp up the shifts and you know, reduce the time from shifts. And that's kind of what we want for a better ET. We want, you know, we want as fast as shifts as possible, so we're not lagging. Let's give some context here if you're kind of new. This is my 1992 Dakota that I drove in high school. Caught on fire, then it got wrecked in the parking lot, then it sat for 19 years, then I put it back together, got the frame fixed, put a LS in it, and I've been as fast as 1205 at 109 miles an hour with a 4L80E that was flaring pretty bad. So I'm in the middle of doing a lot of things. I just finished up an 8.8 rear end swap. I boxed in the frame. We put all Calvert Racing suspension components on it, and now we're gonna get ready to put the engine and trans back in with my used 4L80E transmission. So, all right, there, you're caught up. And well, we're gonna put that Jake's recal kit in it, like I said. But little caveat here: the Jake's recal kit is kind of meant to be installed while you're doing a rebuild, because there's some internal modifications that help apply the third gear a little bit stronger, but we're not going to be doing that. And I actually got it, the info from Jake himself, that we don't have to do that right away. So eventually this truck is going to have a turbo on it, and hopefully put down somewhere around 650, 700 horsepower. And when we do that, we're going to rebuild this thing even further. But right now we're just going to put the kit in it, firm it up, and kind of go from there. Here's my disclaimer: I've never done this before, and all I've done is probably what you're doing right now. You're looking for videos on how to install this thing. Well, I can't say that I'm an expert, and I may screw this up, so let me put that out there. I would definitely take this video as, hey, you know, I'm watching this guy do something, rather than this is the source of truth on how to do this. But I am going to install it without pulling apart the pump or anything else beyond the valve body itself. All right, what else it's going to do is it deletes accumulators, and we'll kind of talk about that. Accumulators kind of help soften up the trans, the shifting of the trans, I believe. And the Jake's recal kit does do that, and we are going to be able to do that portion of the recal kit. All right, without further ado, I'm going to pull the pan back off this thing, and then we're going to get started. And wish me luck. Let's hope this all works once we put it all back together. So, all right, here we go. I got the pan off, and we're just about ready to start diving into this thing. But before we do, I wanted to recommend another YouTube channel if you're really looking for some good information on 4L80Es, and that's going to be a guy named Ryan Blazer, and he does a YouTube channel called Blazer Builds, and I'm going to link 2 videos and his channel in the description of this. That's where I got most of my info for doing this, and I think he explains it very, very well. He even goes full in depth on rebuilding 4L80Es, and I don't think he's a transmission rebuilder. He's kind of a hobbyist like we are, And I think his channel's fantastic for this. So I would definitely rely on his videos more than this one. But let's see what happens. But I'll link that stuff down there in case you're looking for it. All right, well, let's look and see what's in the Jake's kit here. There's not a whole lot in it, but right here is the accumulator plate, and it's going to help us block the accumulator. And there's a spring in here, and this has to do with the spring pressure or the line pressure that comes out of the pump. I don't know much more about it than that. I just know that we're going to replace it. Then there's only 3 more pieces. There's 2 gaskets that you got to be careful with, and then there's a plate. Now, this plate is what goes in between the valve body and the plate of the transmission, and that'll make sense in a little bit. But there's some circles that I have right here, and I'll try to get you guys a good picture of that. But I went off the instructions for this kit, and basically these 3 holes right here need to be drilled out, and they need to be drilled out to increase the pressure for the 2, 3, and 4 shift. Now, there's a recommendation of what to drill them out for, and I don't remember offhand, but I'm going to drill these out to 1/8 of an inch because that's kind of in the middle of the recommended values. One of them starts at 125.125, which is about 1/8 of an inch. The other ones basically say it can be within there, somewhere within there, starting there or something like that. So I think it's going to be a good middle ground for us to go on. So that's what I'm going to go with. Plus, it's also what Ryan Blazer did, which I just told you guys about. And I think that's actually a good middle ground. And it's the only drill bit that I got that's going to work. So another reason we're going to do that. So I'm going to drill these out real quick. You can locate them with the instructions and where they are at. I've double checked these a couple times and I'm ready to drill. So let me get to it. Now I'm going to take a bigger bit, much bigger bit, and just kind of smooth it out. Just so it sits flush back on the plate. I'm not going back in it. I'm just cleaning it out on both sides. See how there's a raised edge? Just kind of come back in. Much better. All right. Here we go. We're going in. Wish me luck. Right? All right. Hopefully you guys can kind of see everything okay. It looks pretty good on the camera. All right. So this is what we're working with. The only thing that would be here that's not here if you very first take the pan off is a filter. And I have removed the filter already when in the last video. So that's why it's not here. And I'm just going to kind of wipe some stuff down. Clean some fluid out of it. A little bit maybe. And yeah, then we're going to kind of get after it. I don't know if there is a particular order this stuff should be done in. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to remove the wiring harness. And I'm hoping that that's just not too big of a deal, which I don't think it is. And it should have a memory, meaning things should be able to go back in where they need to go. Just kind of got to be a little gentle on stuff. I can't tell you what everything is. But I can tell you that it should make sense when you put it all back together. A little bit of a zip tie here for something. I don't know what that is. This is some kind of maybe regulator. I don't remember. Come on out. There it goes. Okay, there's that. And then there's two more here. So, and I'll just poke the crap out of my finger. Or hand, I should say. Green is on the bottom. If that matters. Cool. Alright, so now I'm gonna leave it here until I get this off. So I think I'm just gonna go ahead and start pulling all the 10mm bolts off, which there are a lot of them. Other than this, which are 8mm bolts, the rest are 10mm bolts. But I am gonna start real quick on a couple ones that are pretty important. This is what holds everything in place here, this metal thing, as far as your rooster comb. I believe that's what that's called. And this is your gear selector. So I'm going to pull these off. And I'm going to keep this together just so I know how it goes back together. Put that off to the side somewhere. Then this, I believe, lubricates the tail shaft. And it's just a tube that bolts onto this nut right here, or bolt. So we're going to do the same thing there. It's got like a clamp on it. And I think it's supposed to be able to just kind of walk out, which it is. Very slowly, easily. There's two holes that it go in. One hole here. And then if you can see back down in there, there's another hole right there. So one goes in one side, one goes the other. The clamp right here holds it all down. I'm going to put that off to the side as well. And then move my bolt bin over here. All right, now we're going to get after the rest of these 10mm. All right, I believe I counted 21 10mm bolts. Now we're going to go to the 8mm bolts, maybe. 1, 2. You're going to reuse everything that we just pulled out, so don't throw it away. Ooh, I'm going to need to get to that. All right, 6 of those. And they said if you turn it, it'll come right out, but yeah, it kind of did. All right. I don't remember what this thing does. I just know that we have to take it off and put it back on. And it goes right there. So put this in our pan. Now we should be able to pull this off. Yep. Yeehaw. There we go. There's a couple things we're going to do before we move on to the valve body, actually. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the check balls, and there should be about 8 of them. We're going to put 4 back, but we need to remove the 8 that are there right now. So we'll start doing that. This is a magnet that I'm getting to pull them out with. There's 1, 2. Make sure I don't lose them. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. It's kind of, with them out, you can kind of see where they go because it's a little indention everywhere. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and there's 8 in there somewhere that I'm missing. But you saw me take them out, so pull them all out. And then we're going to do the reverse servo, which is also the first and second gear accumulator. An accumulator does some wizardry which helps soften the shifts or not be so harsh, which, well, you know, we're not too concerned about that, you know. So we're going to take on a different approach and pull them out because horsepower. That's why. So 10mm bolts, there should be 6 of them, 7 of them, 6, no 6. 1, 2, don't lose your bolts. It's under, it is under tension. Interesting. So be careful pulling it out. 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, carefully, I'm gonna pick it up. All right. So this is what we're getting into here. We want to make sure we don't turn that over. That did not come out. May have to figure out how to pull that off. It looks like I might have to pull that clip off there, because this is a piston for the reverse. Oh, no, I just needed a little bit of persuasion. I had to pull back on it a little bit. There we go. And then there's a lot of goodies inside. All right. So, all right. I need to take a timeout and remember what I'm doing here. So I'm going to pause and get right back to you. All right, well, I'm going to omit a part of the video that you're not going to see, and that's where I pulled this off, and I did not need to. I just had to get a little bit more leverage on this, which is the piston, to pull everything apart. And then I should be able to pull this guy out. I thought. Maybe not. There it goes. Yep. Okay, cool. So now we're going to pull these O-rings out of it. Or at least I'm going to try. Here we go. It's a better idea to just stretch it. Here we go. All right. One O-ring out. I'm going to do the same thing other. I'm going to stretch it like that so I can get it out. There we go. That's a better idea. 2 O-rings out. Now that it's all apart, we can put it all back together. And remember, we removed the O-ring here and here for the accumulators. And then it's going to go back in. Yep. It's kind of getting stuck. Oh, that makes sense. All right, this thing right here, this thing right here. There we go. Now we're in good shape. And there's a ridge that this gasket sits on that looks like it can get pinched, so be very careful. Here we go. There we go. Now I'm going to tighten it by hand just to make sure it feels okay. Yep. Cool. That part's done. Now we get to do it again, sort of, in another area, at least a spring. we don't do it again, but it all makes sense in a second. All makes sense in a second. For our next trick, we're going to be pulling this guy out right here. One thing you're going to need to do this is an actual good set of lock ring pliers, and I actually found this on Amazon for like 20 bucks, but they're really well reviewed, really well recommended. I think it's called Tool League. I'm not going to put a link down in there because I don't know how long they're good for, but I will say I will recommend them. They seem like a very nice piece. So all right, so right here, this goes actually into the pump, the converter pump, or the transmission pump I should say. And well, we need to take it out, so we got to get the pins depressed and pulled out, which might be easier said than done. Wow, these are a little bit smaller holes than the pliers are happy to have, which is not ideal. Well, now I went back to my cheap ones because the holes inside this snap ring are not fantastic. Not very big, I should say. Here we go. And that works. Of course, right? Here's my problem. These barely fit in the holes for these snap rings. So anyway, I got it out. Put it on my magnet over here so I don't lose it. And then I gotta get this out, which I'm hoping, well, I'm not sure how to get it out, but it's gotta come out. Oh, okay. It just needs a little bit of coercion with a flathead screwdriver. It's coming out. Come on out. Trying to make sure I don't really tug on it. I don't want to mess anything up. Here it goes. All right. So then this comes out, which is like a piston. And then there's some other things that need to come with it. And a washer. Cool. Alright, so there's this thing and a washer. I'm gonna make sure we don't lose those. And then there's an inner spring and an outer spring. This is the outer spring. It's bigger. The inner spring is right here. We're gonna keep the inner spring, but we're gonna replace the outer spring with this old big guy that comes in the kit. So I'll put that down in there, put the little guy back down in there, and then we're gonna put the piston washer. I don't want, this looks more like a piston than anything, but this to me looks like a cylinder, but we're gonna try to put it all back in there and make it happy, and I don't know how easy that's going to be. Hey, look at that. So we're working with something. But this got to go a long ways back in there. This might be a little difficult. Ooh, this is gonna be fun. I'm gonna have to press down on it and compress the lock ring at the same time. This would definitely be easier with two people. Let me see what I can get done. Oh yeah, awesome. Of course I had stopped filming and then kind of thought about it and gave it another try and forgot to turn the camera on, but I got it in, and it took me just kind of playing around the angles. I did use my cheap old ones, my old C-clip pliers, and I ruined these because I'm an idiot and I bought the wrong size. Well, I mean, I didn't know it's the wrong size, but I'm an idiot for ruining these. But well, that part's done. We're done with it. So good, yay, haha, absolutely awesome. I am actually very relieved that the clip is in there, piston's in place, and everything's good to go. You saw that one part where it flew everywhere. But now the hard part is done. Now we can just work on the valve body, which, let's go put it on the table, start taking it apart. Even though the transmission is drained, it's still kind of a messy job. It's just oily, grimy everywhere anyway. Valve body, here we go. Time to start doing the last modifications of this whole job. And we're going to start by removing this accumulator set up here. This is where all the 3-4 accumulators are. And we're going to pull out all these 8mm bolts. Get a little bit more oomph. There we go. Alright, so this whole thing comes off right here, bolts and all. We're going to put it to the side, and we're not going to use it again. We're going to pull these springs out. We're not going to use those again. Then we're going to pull this gasket off. Actually, I mean, we just need to pull the whole plate off, which is all combined. There we go. So gasket here, plate, gasket here. And looks like this thing has been worked on before, because I don't think that's the factory GM 4L80E gasket, but I may be wrong. But there we go. That part's done. Let's get to the rest of it, huh? All right, here we go. Gasket. You can kind of see where this goes. It can only go on one way, and it's only gonna follow the valve body, all right? So that's not a huge deal there. Then the plate, same thing. It can only go on one way, right? You're gonna know right away when you find the right way, which is here. Then I'm gonna use the block off plate for the accumulators, which has a little tab that goes this way towards the back of the valve body, and then new bolts that are shorter. Remember, this is aluminum. You don't want it real tight. All right, now we got one thing left to do. We're gonna put this on here, but I need to get some grease first because we want it to stay in place. This is ultra thick assembly lube. I think you're supposed to use transmission assembly lube, but I'm just gonna put a dab on here and there so it'll keep the gasket in place while we flip it over, because we're gonna flip it up upside down. And it should be pretty tacky. All right, that's all we're doing. We're done. That's it. No more of that stuff. Yeah, there we go. Maybe a little bit out there. And just a little bit of this stuff. I wouldn't go very far with it for sure. Alright. Cool. Now we're ready to install it back in the transmission. Before we put the valve body in, we got to put 4 check valve balls back in. And I'm looking at my diagram over here that comes with the instructions. We put one here. We put one there. Then we put one here. And then the last one goes right there. And that's it. You don't have to put the other 4 in there. All right. Important to make sure you don't lose your shift bobber. I don't know what you want to call that, but make sure you get it in line here before you do anything else. And then start threading some bolts. Here we go. Oh no, I'm not in here. See? I fell out. I think that's still okay here. Yes, alright. Alright, I'm going to get all these bolts in and get everything tightened down. Remember, I'm going to put this, whatever this thing is. That's my name for it. Where it needs to go. And I don't remember. Yep, that guy goes right there. Okay. Now I know. Time to get busy. It's done. It's done. It's all back together. All the bolts are tight. All the wiring's on. The rooster comb's in place. This is the important thing that I was telling you about when you put the valve body in place. You want to make sure that that pin's in between there, because that's what's going to move your gears. Very important. It wasn't too bad. The spring for the pump was a little rough because I didn't quite have the right tool. I think if I had the right tool, it would have been a whole lot easier, but we got it in place, no problem. I did have to pull it all back off because the plate in between here, the actual little metal plate here, was a little misaligned here, and I couldn't get this bolt all the way in. So I had to pull it all back off and kind of put that in place first. The accumulator plate actually had to take loose because that's what was holding it in place. Anyway, I would recommend trying to put this bolt right here because it's kind of got a tighter clearance than the rest of them do. And anyway, I got it. I just had to pull it all back off, kind of loosen up, tighten it all back up, and then put it all back up. So anyway, I got it done. I have a couple things coming for it. So I'm not 100% done with this. So there's going to be a little bit more coming. And then once that's here, I'll throw it on and we'll be done with this. And then the drivetrain can go back in the truck. And boy, have I been ready for that day. So it took me a little bit longer than I thought it was going to, because I fought with that pump, piston and spring for so long. But I'm glad it's done. And I don't know. I'm just getting excited because this thing's about to be running again before you know it. So, all right. I'm going to shut it down. It's late. And I'll see y'all tomorrow when the parts come in to finish this thing up. Good morning. I would say the first morning of fall for us here outside Houston, Texas. It's actually crisp outside, so it's amazing. And my parts came in, so let me show you the last couple things that we need to put the trans together. Okay, this is actually what I was talking about, and let me get something to cut it open. All right, here we go. This is the most expensive dipstick tube that I've ever bought. This thing was not cheap, but this is a Lokar dipstick tube, and the best thing about it is it has a nut that will actually hold it inside the transmission. So these things don't leak, or they're not supposed to anyway. And well, they've got a quick disconnect too, which is really cool, and a plug, so like when you're done, or you know, when the trans is out of the car, you can plug it all off. And well, we're gonna install it real quick, and then I gotta go to the parts store and get a filter for it, and that's it. So wanted to show you all that. It's flexible. I got the firewall mount one, so I got some room to move it around, and super nice. It's also locking, which is required for safety once you go a certain speed in HRA guidelines and whatnot, so it can't just fall out. So it's a pretty good deal. It's really nice. It's expensive, but this stuff's pretty nice. I think this was 250 bucks, believe it or not, but I think it's going to be worth it. And it swivels right here, which is beautiful, which means I don't have to clock this, which is what I was worried about. All right, let's go install it. All right, well, the trans is upside down, right? So things aren't exactly where we need them to be, but this side, which is passenger side, is where the dipstick tube needs to go in. So I'm gonna pull this out. I'm gonna go get some PB Blaster real quick just to lubricate this, and then we're basically just gonna throw it in from the bottom. I'm just gonna use a little bit of my air tool oil. Actually, just need some lubrication to help it go in the orifice. All right, let's see what we're working with. Cool. Well, now it's tight enough. I can probably put this washer on and then this nut on, which, ooh, it barely hits right here. I think we're okay though, but I'm not gonna be able to get a socket on it, so let me go get a wrench so I can get this all tightened up. All right, now we're just gonna tighten this guy up. It's a little dark, but you can see it kind of, it crushes that gasket, makes it real nice and tight, and you won't have any issues with it leaking if it sits overnight. So I don't want to over tighten this nut and washer. I think I'm just about good right there. All right, let's put the rest of it together and I'll show you the last really important thing we got to do. Now that this dipstick's in place, at least the tube on this side is, I'm gonna go ahead and put the remainder of the tube in place. Get kind of an idea where it's gonna be. Who knows where it's gonna be, right? And then I'm gonna put the dipstick in. This is gonna be very important. I'm gonna go ahead and get it all the way in there and lock it down, because I need to know that when this thing is in here, and to validate the level on the transmission, it needs to be at least level with the surface of the mating surface for the transpan. This one is actually a little bit below, which, you know, that's the whole thing. It needs to be at least here. So I need to make a scribe on this thing to get an accurate level. So if I were to use this, the fluid would be low. If I were to use this indicator here, the fluid would be low, because it's like, it's, you know, about somewhere in there. Actually, this line right there is probably about right, but this is the indicator and it would be wrong. So I need to make sure that the fluid is marked accurately when it's full. So that's a big deal. You know, even though these things are expensive, they're not always right. And that's a common problem with these transmissions, is that people underfill them. So what I've done to rectify that is I've marked it with a Sharpie. I'm hoping the Sharpie stays on, but this is going to be my full indicator. I'm going to put it back in and double check everything. Yep, and that looks good. So you can't see it because it's underneath this bolt and stuff, but the Sharpie's actually just a little bit below the gasket mating surface. It's below the mating surface, and once this is mounted to the firewall, and it might make a little bit of a difference, but it won't ever be more stuck in than this that I am aware of. So we should be good. So need to know to fill that sucker all the way up. And well, now I'm gonna go run and get a transmission filter, throw that on, and then we can put the pan on, and then we're done. Filter, Wix filter is, what's the number on this one? 58608. And well, just plug this guy in here. It goes all the way flush against there. There we go. Filter's on. And let's throw the transpan on. Now that we did all that work, let's take a sawzall to it, because I have to cut this ear off and that ear off so the headers will fit. And then we're done. We're done with the trans. Check it out. We've got the ears cut off. We've got the shift kit in. We've got the new dipstick in. And check this out. This is pretty cool. It comes with a little plug that when you're storing it, it kind of just hangs out here. So that's really neat. So it doesn't spill out everywhere. And, you know, the other side is ground down. So this trans is ready to go in. It's finally time to start putting the truck back together. I do have to mount this up, which I might look at tomorrow and figure out what I'm going to need, because I still have to cut that hole bigger. And I don't know if I'm going to leave it in place and do it, or I just don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I pull it back off because I got to bleed the brakes and stuff anyways. I might pull the bed off one more time. We'll see. We'll see. But this is done. 4L80E is done, ready to go in. I have a new flex plate for it that I just bought. And this is actually an SF5 flex plate. It wasn't too expensive. I will get a better one later on down the road when we put more power down, but this will be fine. I'm not gonna open that right now, but here are some flex plate bolts. So, with my new Circle D converter, I have to get a 6-bolt converter flex plate for an 80E. So I bought one of those. So we're pretty much ready to go. We're ready to put this stuff back in. And that has been exciting because I tore this truck down in December of last year, and it's almost been down for a year. And my goal is to have it up running before the end of the year. So I think we can do that. We've got a little bit of work to do, but it's really, really cresting. And you know, especially since we're going to be putting on some coilovers and lowering the truck. So that's going to take some time. So that's probably going to be the last thing we do after we put the motor and trans back in the truck. So, all right, that wasn't too bad. I'm sure this video is going to take me a little while to edit, so I'll be doing that tomorrow. And, well, you'll see it at the end of the week on Saturday, like always. So, all right, I'm going to go inside and get ready to enjoy the rest of the weekend. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend as well. And, you know, if you like what we're doing here, all these projects, all these things going on, even though we're really focusing on the Dakota recently, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. We'd love to have you along and hanging out with us. And you can also check us out on our Facebook and Instagram at The Racer X Garage. Again, have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you next time. Until next time, y'all be good.